Here's Julie. So, a lot of good things with your stroke. You're staying pretty level in the water. Your hips are just slightly low. Hips and legs are just slightly low. Working on the kick, if you recall, having a stronger kick is going to help somewhat with that. Your extension is really good, so your extension and rotation, really very good. The deal with the extension is, with each stroke, you try to reach as far forward as possible so that you can grab as much water as possible with each stroke. And you look very comfortable breathing, so when you turn to breathe, it doesn't look like any problems there. On your right arm recovery, if I'm just nitpicking, see sometimes your hand is kind of even with or a little higher than your elbow. So you would want to have your hand lower than your elbow, more like on your left side. It's not a big deal. If you have your hand swinging up high a lot, then over time you could develop some shoulder strain. But it's not really going to make you much faster. Now the kick, as you can see, not really much kick going on, so you're going to want to incorporate some sort of propulsive kick into your stroke. From a triathlon standpoint, you don't want to kick a whole lot, but you do want to have a good kick so that when you are kicking it is effective. So the best thing for that is doing kick sets with the board, concentrating on kicking a little more when you're swimming, maybe using some fins. I like type called Speedo Optimus fins. Yeah, so that right hand is just like level with your elbow, so it's not terrible. On some of these strokes, when you're not turning to breathe, you could rotate a little more, and by that what I would mean is you try and push that front shoulder as far forward as you can to make a streamlined sort of motion. The pull that you're doing, the pull lines viewed from this angle are good, so you're pulling straight back more or less with just a little bit of rotation. That right arm might be just slightly wide actually. And then here's where I think you're going to have a lot of room for stuff to work on. What you have going on, and you recall this from the lesson, is more or less a straight arm pull. So you enter the water and then your arm pulls straight down and then straight back. So it's a fairly strong way to swim. The issue is that first third of the stroke doesn't really move you forward. It just kind of moves you up. It moves you forward a little bit. Here you can see how your legs are a little low. This isn't terrible. You might want to try and incorporate like a 2-beat kick or a 4-beat kick, because you kind of have a 4-beat kick there, but it's not particularly strong. So bend the knees more. Basically the kick starts at your hip and then snaps down through your foot. That's where the propulsion comes from. So at the end of the video, I got a frame by frame on the strokes so you can see what your arm motions are doing on each side, or you can pause this and try and go in slow-mo and stuff. But yeah, the high elbow catch, early vertical forearm that we talked about, that's really what you want to get to as the most effective swim technique stroke. And then here what I'm looking at is where your arm's pulling. So yeah, that right arm is a bit wider than I would recommend, so bring that in a little more towards your torso as you're pulling. You don't want to pull under your torso. Right now you're using your lats as the main mover, which is good. When you pull under your torso, you start using more bicep and pec, which is not quite as effective because of the way the muscles are positioned. So this one, I think we just had you really think about trying to do a catch.
That's good. You feel a difference?
Yeah, it does feel better.
Yeah.
Brought that right arm in a bit as well. When you're pulling, you're not quite as wide, so that's good.
Ready?
Yeah. So just working on rotation again.
And here we're, okay, rotation as well. So I had you working on extending forward and getting that shoulder forward. So this looks a lot smoother if you watch this and go back to the first round. Anytime you change your stroke, you know, you might slow down at the beginning, but ultimately, if it's more effective or more streamlined, you're going to be faster. And here, you know, this is where you're really concentrating on getting the high elbow. So it looks a little better. And then this one, I think we have you do one arm. So that high elbow really comes from rotating that shoulder internally, and then the elbow pops up, and then hand and a forearm angled down or vertical. So that's better. You could see some there. If you would freeze frame or freeze that or pause that, you could see. But it's really a very extreme position. You know, you won't find yourself doing it in any other circumstance except swimming. Or that's good too with the left. Or if you were trying to pull yourself up over a wall. That's, I mean, those are really the only two times you do this particular type of motion. So this was, you know, pre-comments. So that at this point you'd want that elbow to be angling up, shoulder to be rotated in a bit more. So when I'm talking about a straight arm, I'm looking at your forearm and upper arm angle. So here the elbow's bent, but it took, you know, it was almost halfway through the stroke before that motion was taking place. So you really want to get that, you know, hand and forearm angled down in order to grab onto the water and create leverage as early as possible. So rotate the shoulder over at this point already. Elbow would be coming, rotating outwards. This is a little better. So a little better catch on that left arm. Still, you want to be able to do that more and earlier. But that left side appears to be better technically at this point. Hope all that helps.